can you really learn all of economics in just 5 minutes? I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, right? But what if I told you that every single complex theory, every market crash, and every massive government decision, all of it boils down to one simple human truth? Yep, that's it. You want stuff. You want food, a roof over your head, maybe a phone with a slightly better camera. And guess what? It's not just you. It's everyone. And that one universal desire is the engine that powers our entire global economy. So, if it's all about just wanting stuff, why do we need a whole field of study for it? Well, it's because we run into one fundamental problem. And that problem is scarcity. It's the simple kind of annoying fact that there's a limited amount of, well, everything. If we had infinite pizza and infinite iPhones, we wouldn't need economics, but we don't. And because there isn't enough to go around, we're all forced to make choices. And at its heart, that is all economics is, the study of how we choose. Think about it for a second. Every single choice you make means you're giving something else up. Right now, you're choosing to watch this. So what could you be doing instead? That other thing you gave up, whether it's watching cat videos, taking a nap, grabbing a snack, that's what economists call your opportunity cost. It's the value of the next best thing you didn't do. Every decision has one. Hope this explainer is worth it. Okay, so scarcity forces us all to make choices. But we're not making these choices in a vacuum. We've actually come up with a pretty clever system for sorting all this stuff out together. We interact in things called markets. Now, this could be your local farmer's market, the New York Stock Exchange, or even just selling an old chair on Facebook Marketplace. They all run on one single, incredibly powerful fuel: incentives. For buyers like you and me, the main incentive is price. It's pretty intuitive, right? If a slice of pizza is $100, you're probably not buying it. If it's $1, you might buy a few. The lower the price, the more people want to buy. That's the law of demand. Simple as that. Now let's flip it. For the person selling the pizza, the incentive is the exact opposite. Higher prices mean more profit, which gives them a big incentive to make and sell more pizza. So as the price goes up, the quantity they're willing to sell goes up too, and that's supply. So you've got these two forces pushing in opposite directions. Buyers want low prices, and sellers want high prices. So where do they meet? They meet right in the middle, at what's called the equilibrium price. It's this magic sweet spot where the amount of pizza people want to buy is exactly the same as the amount sellers want to sell. The market is perfectly balanced. Of course, trying to trade chickens for a new laptop would get really messy really fast. To make all this buying and selling happen smoothly, we invented an incredible tool: money. Think of it like a universal translator for value. It's a medium of exchange, so you don't have to trade your goat for Wi-Fi. It's a unit of account, so we know what things are worth. And it's a store of value, so you can save up your work for later. All right, let's zoom out. We've seen how you and I and businesses all interact, but how do we measure how an entire country's economy is doing? How do we know if it's healthy? We usually use a giant, intimidating number called GDP, or Gross Domestic Product. But don't let all those zeros scare you. It's just the total value of all the new stuff, goods and services, made in a country in 1 year. But what's actually in that number? It's actually a pretty simple recipe. You start with C for consumption. That's all the stuff you and I buy, from our morning coffee to a new car. You add I for investment. That's businesses buying new machines and building factories. Then you add G for government spending on things like roads, bridges, and schools. And finally, you add net exports, which is just the stuff we sell to other countries minus the stuff we buy from them. Add it all up, and boom, you've got GDP. But here's the thing. Economies don't just grow in a nice straight line. They have seasons. They move in cycles. When GDP is going up, we call it a boom. When it starts to shrink for a while, that's a recession. If it's a really, really bad recession that lasts for years, that's a depression. And then there's the worst of all worlds: stagflation. That's when the economy is shrinking, but prices are still going up. Not fun. In our modern world, no country is really an island. We're all tangled up in this huge, complicated web of global trade. Let's take a look at how that actually works. The whole reason we trade with other countries comes down to this idea called comparative advantage. Now, stick with me. The key idea is this: even if one country is better at making everything, it still makes sense for it to focus on what it's relatively best at. So Brazil focuses on its amazing coffee, while Japan focuses on its high-tech cars. They trade, and both countries end up with more coffee and more cars than they could have made on their own. Everybody wins. But this whole idea starts a huge debate. On one side, you have people who support free trade, getting rid of all the barriers. That usually means lower prices and way more variety for you, the consumer. On the other side, you have protectionism, which uses tools like tariffs, which are just taxes on imported goods, to try and protect local jobs. It's a classic economic trade-off. Do you protect some jobs at home, even if it means everyone else has to pay higher prices? Now, this global system is incredibly efficient. But boy, is it fragile. I'm sure you remember when that one massive ship, the Ever Given, got stuck sideways in the Suez Canal. It literally created a global traffic jam, holding up billions of dollars in goods every single day. It was a perfect and kind of scary reminder of just how interconnected and how vulnerable our modern world really is. So far, a lot of this seems pretty logical, right? Supply and demand, trade, it all sounds like a neat, clean machine. But there's one wild card in the whole system that makes everything wonderfully messy. Us, humans. You see, a lot of classic economics assumes that we are all perfectly rational robots who always make the best decision. But the field of behavioral economics has proven that we're very human. We're full of biases. For example, we feel the pain of loss aversion. Losing $20 feels way worse than the joy of finding $20. We fall for this sunk cost fallacy, forcing yourself to finish a terrible movie just because you paid for the ticket. And we have a powerful herding instinct. Remember when everyone started panic buying toilet paper? Yep, that's us. And this messy human element shows up in the big systems we create too. On one hand, you have capitalism, which is driven by private ownership and the search for profit. It's an absolute powerhouse for innovation and creating wealth, but it can also lead to massive inequality. On the other hand, you have socialism, which focuses on collective ownership and fairness. It's generally better at creating equality, but can sometimes struggle with motivating people and being efficient. But here's the big reality check. No country on Earth is purely one or the other. Almost every single nation is a mixed economy, trying to find that perfect balance between the engine of the free market and the safety net of government action. The real debate isn't if we should mix them, but how. And that brings us right back to where we started. All of economics, every stock market report, every government budget, every single purchase you make, it's all just a constant, ongoing effort to answer three basic questions. What should we make? How should we make it? And who gets the stuff once we've made it? There are no easy answers, just a never-ending series of complex human trade-offs. And understanding that is understanding the engine that